Lerato had always believed in love, the kind of love that makes your heart race, the kind of love that makes you smile at your phone for no reason. And for 3 years, she thought she had found that love with Sizwe. He was charming, ambitious, and had that deep, confident voice that made her weak. From their first date at a fancy rooftop restaurant in Santon to the spontaneous weekend getaways, he made her feel like the most treasured woman in the world. But love, as she would learn, can be a perfect crafted lie. One evening, Lerato prepared a special dinner to celebrate Sizwe's promotion at his corporate job. She had candles lit, soft music playing, and was wearing the red dress that he once said made her irresistible. But Sizwe never showed up. At first, she brushed it off, thinking he got caught up at work. Then curiosity whispered in her ears. She called and there was no answer. She texted. The messages were delivered but unread. Her heart pounded with uneasiness and she couldn't ignore it. Something felt so off and she knew it deep down her gut. Lerato's best friend Mbali had always been suspicious of Sizwe. "Girl, he's too smooth," she would always say. "Men like that don't belong to just one woman." Lerato never wanted to believe it until that night. Chapter 2. The Unforgivable Betrayal. Mbali had a strong intuition, so when Lerato confided in her about Sizwe's strange behaviors, she suggested they go for investigation. "Trust but verify," she snapped, pulling out her phone. Through a little social media stalking, they found what they were looking for. Sizwe's location tag at a luxurious hotel in Rosebank. Not for business, but pleasure. Lerato's hands shook as she gripped the steering wheel, driving towards the hotel. Rage, heartbreak, and disbelief clouded her vision. She needed to see it with her own eyes. When she arrived, she spotted Sizwe's sleek black Mercedes parked outside. The Betrayal was parked right in front of her. She stormed into the hotel, heart racing, and it asked the receptionist which room he was in. The receptionist hesitated until Lerato spoke with fire of a scorned woman. "I am his fiancé. If you don't tell me, I'll call the police and say he stole from me," she whispered. The woman, visibly shaken, spilled the details. Room 709. Lerato didn't wait for more. She took the elevator, fist clenched. When she reached the door, she heard laughter, her men's laughter, mixed with the voice of another woman. She knocked, pretending to be a hotel staff. When the door swung open, there stood Sizwe, shirtless, looking like he had seen a ghost. Behind him, there she was, wrapped in a silk robe. None other than Naledi, his friend from work. Lerato didn't scream. She didn't cry. Instead, she smiled. A very dangerous smile. "Enjoy your night," she said coolly before turning and walking away. Caesar scrambled after her, spewing weak apologies. "Baby, I can explain," he said. But Lerato had already made up her mind. He was going to regret this. The Ultimate Payback. Chapter 3. The Ultimate Payback. Lerato didn't spend days crying into a pillow. No, that wasn't her style. She was a woman scorned, but more than that, she was a woman with power. Sizwe thought she would fade away, nursing her heartbreak in silence. He had no idea that Lerato had something he lacked. She had spent years helping him build his image, introducing him to key investors, polishing his reputation. He was a rising star in the corporate world, but without her, he was nothing. One day, after all the tears, Lerato called a private event, inviting all Sizwe's business associates and friends. When he arrived with a projector screen showcasing pictures, screenshots, and receipts of betrayal, gasps filled the room. Business partners whispered. His reputation was crumbling before his eyes. That was not all. She reclaimed everything. The apartment they shared was gone. since she had put the list in her name and evicted him the next morning. His favorite designer suits were all banned. The expensive watch she had gifted him was auctioned, and then she moved on in the most scandalous way. She didn't leave Sizwe, she upgraded. The 2 weeks later, she was seen on Instagram in the arms of an even bigger, powerful player, his former mentor, Mr. Dlamini, older, richer, and 10 times more influential than Sizwe. The tabloids went wild. Chapter 4. The Sweet Taste of Revenge. Joburg was still buzzing with the scandal. Lerato had turned Heartbreak into a high-stakes power move, and people were eating it up. Social media was flooded with memes of Sizwe looking defeated, and whispers of how he had lost everything spread like wildfire in the corporate circles. But for Lerato, the real game was just beginning. Sitting in the VIP section of an exclusive Center and rooftop bar, she sipped on her favorite cocktail, an expensive French Martin, one that Sizwe used to claim was too fancy for his taste. Across from her sat Mr. Dlamini, the man she had strategically aligned herself with. Wealthy, influential, and well-dressed, he was everything Sizwe wanted to be. "People are talking," he said with a knowing smile, swelling his whiskey. "Then let them talk," Lerato replied smoothly. She wasn't dating Mr. Dlamini out of love, no. This was a calculated move, one that ensured Sizwe knew he could never touch her level again. Meanwhile, Sizwe was spiraling. His boss had called him in for a serious conversation. After news of his affair with Lerato on public humiliation was spread, the corporate world valued loyalty and discretion, and Sizwe had displayed neither. The deals that had once seemed like a sure thing were now slipping through his fingers. He tried reaching out to Lerato multiple times, but all the calls were ignored and all the messages were left unread. The man who once controlled the relationship was now begging at the feet of the woman he had betrayed. But Lerato wasn't satisfied yet. There was one more thing she needed to do. Chapter 5. The Setup. One evening, Mbali came over with a bottle of champagne. "Sis, you have already won, but I have an idea to make this even sweeter." Lerato leaned in, intrigued, as Mbali explained the strategy they were going to use. So, Lerato sent Sizwe a message. It was short, simple, but powerful. "We need to talk. Meet me tomorrow at our spot," it reads. Chapter 6. The Night He Never Forget. The next evening, Sizwe arrived early at their favorite restaurant, looking desperate but hopeful. He had shaved and wore the cologne Lerato once loved, and even picked up a bouquet of red roses. Lerato walked in like a queen, dressed in an elegant black dress, confidence radiating from every step. She sat across from him, crossing her legs slowly but teasingly. "I missed you," Sizwe started, his voice almost shaky. I know I messed up, but I need you back, Clara," he whispered. She tilted her head as if considering it. "Did you miss me? Or did you miss what I brought into your life?" Sizwe swallowed hard. "Lerato, please. You're the only woman I've ever truly loved," he stated. Lerato leaned in slightly, her lips curving into a wicked smile. "Good to know," she said softly, but not interested. Then she pulled out her phone and turned the screen towards him and hit play. They were live. Thousands of people were watching, their entire social media circle. Sizwe's eyes widened as he realized the trap. He looked around in panic and his hands trembling. You set me up?" He trembled. Lerato stood up, picked up his untouched glass of wine and poured it over the bouquet of roses he had brought. She walked out. her heels clicking against the marble floor, while the restaurant erupted into murmurs and laughter. Bali was waiting outside, grinning to ear to ear. "You're my friend. You, my friend, are legendary," she said. Lerato smiled and whispered, "I'm just getting started." Sizwe didn't just lose Lerato, he lost everything. After the public humiliation, his reputation was ruined. His boss, who had been watching the viral video like the rest of Johannesburg citizens, called him into a final meeting. "We value integrity in the company," his boss said coldly. "We can't have someone recklessly representing us. We cannot have someone reckless representing us. Sizwe, you are fired," he said bluntly. With no job, no connection, and no Lerato, his world came crashing down. The woman who once admired him for his charm and money suddenly saw him as a liability. His so-called friends distanced themselves and not wanting to be associated with a man whose career had crumbled overnight. Even Naledi, the woman he had cheated with, ghosted him. Sizwe was broke and alone. He decided to reach out to Lerato one last time. "Lerato, I know I don't deserve another chance, but I would. I just need to say I'm sorry. Can we at least talk?" Lerato read the message and then deleted it immediately. She had already moved on and healed. With Sizwe out of the picture, she threw herself into her career, expanding her influence in the business world. Mr. Dlamini, impressed by her intelligence and strategic mind, he introduced her to powerful investors. Within months, she launched her own consulting firm, helping women take control of their financial independence. She didn't just survive the heartbreak, she thrived. The media loved her. Magazines wanted to feature her story, and the woman who turned betrayal into success. Like high-profile men lined up for her attention, but she was no longer interested in empty charms. She had learned her self-worth, and one night at a charity gala in Cape Town, she took the stage and gave a speech on women's empowerment. "Heartbreak does not define us," she said confidently. "What defines us is how we rise from it." The audience erupted in applause as she sat down. Months later, Lerato was at an exclusive rooftop lounge in Sandton, celebrating her latest business deal with Mbali, her best friend. That's when she saw him, Sizwe. But he was no longer the same man. His once expensive suits were gone, replaced by someone far less polished. His usual confidence was shattered. He looked tired, like a man who had lost everything. For a brief moment, their eyes met. He hesitated and then walked towards her. "What do you think happened? Did they talk? Did they reconcile?" Well, I bet not. The moral lesson of this story is, never let betrayal break you. Use it as fuel for success. Loyalty is valuable, but never waste it on someone who doesn't deserve it. Revenge is best served with success, not anger. A queen does not beg, she builds. Thank you so much for listening.